Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Julie and this is Stamp with Julie Baum. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and if any of the products that you see today are enticing to you and you would like to own them, I would be very happy to point you in the right direction. At the end of this video, and if you look in the description below, I will mention my website and where you can go to my online store to purchase products. In the meantime, sit back and enjoy. Today's card is actually project number 3 from my stamp club in June of 2022. We typically make 3 projects at Stamp Club. Stamp Club is an in-person event that happens every month. And I am showing you project number 3 right now. Project 1 and 2 are shown in separate videos, and I do mention Stamp Club and which project so that you can see which ones all went during the same month. All right, so this is the card we're going to make, and let's jump in and get started. The set that we used for Stamp Club this month was all the same one. So Happiness Abounds was the stamp set. We also used other items from the suite. The suite is called Hues of Happiness. And so on the very first card, it was mostly the designer series paper, which is called Hues of Happiness. It's 12 by 12 sheets. So we used mostly that and a little bit of stamping. In the second project, we used mostly the designer series paper, but we backed it with some white cardstock, used the dies, and did lots of die cutting from these products. On this third card, we're going to do stamping and die cutting. So we really got a good example of lots of the different products in this suite. All right, so let me show you the parts and pieces that you're going to need. You'll need a card base, and because my card base is white, I am using our thick cardstock. So this is 8.5 by 5.5, and it is scored down the center at 4 1/4. There's our card base. Then I have a piece of basic black cardstock, trimmed down just a little bit so it will fit nicely. This piece is 4 1/4. I'm sorry, this piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that to my card base. All right, so again, 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm just going to kind of set it in place, looking at my white margins all the way around, trying to get it as even as I can by eyeballing it and not measuring. All right, there we go. So there is our card base and another layer. Now I've got some pieces of designer series paper, and actually you've got some choices to make on your own because you're going to need some black and white paper. This is very quite possibly retired by now, but we do have a good option. Let me show you some of the papers. I'm looking in my catalog. I want to find the right page. All right, here it is. On page 133, we have this piece, or this package of papers called Perfectly Penciled. It is 12 by 12 and it is black and white. So even though my prints are different, all you need to do is find some black and white paper. Now in last year's catalog, we had a wonderful host set of papers, and the fronts were bright and colorful and all of the backs were black and white. So you might not even realize that you have some black and white paper in your own stash. So you're going to need a couple different pieces. You want them, again, they're black and white, but they coordinate, okay? So your first design is going to be a piece that is 1.5 by 4.5. That is this one. Then you're going to need a second piece that coordinates but is different. And this piece measures 2.5 by 4. And then a third piece for the front that again just coordinates. So I have 3 different black and white designs. a polka dot or a stripe or a geometric would be great for this third piece. This piece is 1 inch by 3 inches. Now for the inside of my card, I've also chosen to take another little slip of this same paper. This is just a 1/4 inch and it's by 5.5. This is going to go on the inside of my card just to bring a little interest there. All right, so those are your pieces. Let me show you how to attach them. You're going to take the first one, and this is your piece that's 1.5 by 4.5. And I'm going to find the place where I've got an equal distance from the left side of my black paper and the top side. Okay, so I'm just looking for that and then laying this piece down. So this little measurement, which is, I don't know, it's tiny, about 1/8 of an inch. And this would be about that 1/8 of an inch. So that's what I was looking for when I placed this one. Okay, first one's done, the second two are easier. All right, so this next one is going to get placed equal at the bottom of this one. And you want to look for that same 1/8 of an inch over here. So it's going to go like that, okay? Ooh, look at that geometric. That one's fun. All right, so I'm lining it up with the bottom of the first designer paper, and I want about that same 1/8 of an inch from this edge of the black paper. So that looks good. Let's get that pressed down. And then the third and final piece for the front is this one. This is the 1 by 3. It is now going to get lined up with the right side of this, and you want to bring it down so that you have about that same 1/8 of an inch down here. Okay, so see, it kind of goes together once you get that first one down. All the guesswork is taken out if you lay them out the way that I just told you to do it. All right, so I'm going to line it up with the right side. I want to bring it down like so. My liquid glue is giving me a little bit of time to wiggle it. This needed to come up a little from where I first dropped it down. All right, there's the designer series papers all in place. Now we want a pop of color. So you could do whatever mood you're in. Mango Melody would be beautiful. Parakeet Party or Tahitian Tide would be beautiful. I am going to use Polished Pink on this one. So I've got a white scrap, and I'm going to stamp this large flower from the stamp set. I'm not sure if I pulled this into the camera view yet. This is Happiness Abounds, and I'm using this large flower and my black ink. And then I could have saved a little bit of time and done this ahead of time and die cut it, but I did not, so I will be die cutting this. I'm going to get my Stampin' Pierce mat, which I set aside a minute ago. Where did I put it? There it is. I feel confident that I'm going to get a nice crisp image with this photopolymer stamp if I have my mat underneath here. Okay, I like it. All right, so this is going to get die cut, and I think I will just go ahead and do that right now. I'm gonna reach for my mini, and I gotta reach for the plates. Sorry if I bumped the camera. I didn't anticipate this part of it. I had everything prepared, but I did not pre-cut this. So let's just do it. All right, so I've got my plate number 1 and a number 2. Here's my image. I mentioned in the video showing project number 2 how to line this up. I will mention it for you again in case you're watching this one before that one. On this petal, you can see that there's a little bracket shape. I drew it before so you could see what I was talking about. That little bracket shape is on this petal, and it helps because you can find that same little bracket shape on the die. So you're actually able to line it up quite quickly. All right, so let's get this down, line it up. I'm a little worried about it sliding. So I am going to put a piece of Post-it tape on this. Oh, everything was just kind of out of reach. All right, there we go. I think that's lined up pretty well. So I'm going to just stick my Post-it tape. I've used this same piece a couple times, so it's lost quite a bit of its sticky. All right, and cover it with another 2-plate and run this through. All right, now we can move this out of the way. And get back to our project. Okay, I'm going to use the Stampin' Blends to color this. And this is polished pink, so I'm using the light and the dark of my polished pink. The first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to color really fast, so this probably won't be my best work ever. But I do want to color it and just show you how I do it, especially if you're new to coloring with blends. So I'm taking my dark polished pink first, and you might be wondering why I always have rubber bands on my Stampin' Blends. This is just what I do. It makes sense to me. When I have all of my blends in my big marker bin, I want to make sure that these always stay together because I will typically use the light and the dark at the same time. So I have all of my sets of blends just connected with a rubber band, in case you were curious. So I'm using my dark, and I am going to go over all of the outlines, and you don't have to be super careful with this, so it doesn't take a long time. And then the other thing I'm doing is wherever there's a tiny little, I believe what it is a fold in the petal. So it's these tiny little openings. I'm filling those in. All right, so around the edges, around the edge. This looks like a little fold to me. I'm not sure if it is or not, but it is now. This is a little fold. All right, there's another area to fill in. Let's go this way, up and around. Up and around. I think that is a fold. Here's another one. So it's basically all the little skinny wedges are the ones that I'm filling in completely with my dark marker. All right, we're almost done with this part. Then I'm going to take my light polished pink. Sometimes I catch myself saying positively pink. And that is because it was a color at some point. It may have been an in color. Right now I'm not remembering. But this is polished pink, which is a current in color. This one came out a year ago, and we still get to use it all of this year before it retires. All right, I think I've gotten all my outlines of my petals. Okay, then I'm going to switch to my light marker, and seriously, just color it all in. And I'm kind of letting it even go over those dark lines. Okay, now there's really no rules when it comes to coloring with your Stampin' Blends as far as if you do light first or dark first. Sometimes I will change my method just depending on the image that I'm coloring. Sometimes I'll color with all the light areas first and then go back to dark. You might see people do it the same way I'm doing it this time, with some dark outline first. Really, whatever either you're comfortable with or whatever you feel like gives you the best outcome. Go with that method. Whatever is your tried and true method. Now, Stampin' Blends are super fantastic because of the way that they do blend together. You also see that even as I'm starting and stopping, I'm not getting any harsh lines. That is because these are alcohol-based markers, and they just have this magic way of evaporating while you're using them, and it keeps from having any of those start and stop lines that you would get if you were coloring with regular traditional markers. Okay, I'm also coming in close to that circle. Okay, now with my light, I'm going to kind of go over some of those dark areas, just pulling that dark ink in a little bit. Again, we don't want this to look like too perfect. We want it to look like nature. And a flower is going to have lights and darks and some shadows and some shading. And I'm telling you, I am definitely not the best one at this, but it's super fun to try and to see what you get. And the Stampin' Blends do kind of turn you into an artist. All right, so there, I'm pretty happy with that. I've got some dark, I've got some light. I'm gonna go back with my dark and use the bullet end and just increase a couple areas where I want it a little bit darker. I'm really being pretty random at this right now. Okay, just a couple spots, and maybe bleed those out a little bit so they're not too harsh. But you can see how now I've got a little bit more dark in a couple areas. I can hardly remember where I did it. Here. Okay, so I've got a good mix of light and dark, some shadowing, some shading. And the last thing I'm going to do on this one is take my my color lifter pen, and this looks like a white marker. This is the color lifter, and I'm going to go into some of these light areas and exaggerate them a little bit more by pulling some color out. So that looks good. I'm going to put a little bit here. All right, so I'm just making a couple of these petals have almost a little pale or white look to them. I'm kind of just concentrating on this side as if that's where the light is hitting. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I will take my gray marker. This is the light smoky slate, and I'm just going to fill in the center of that with gray. Oh, you know, one thing I'm going to do, I want to pull my dark pink and hit some of these little accents in the very center of the flower, like so. Okay, I think we're going to leave it at that. So our flower, in just a moment, is going to get added to the front of our card to bring in that pop of color. And like I said, any single color would look great there. Yellow, green, blue, whatever you're in, purple, whatever you're in the mood for. How about red? Black, white, and red always looks good. Let's do our words, and then we will finish this up. I have a piece of polished pink that is 1 inch by 3 inches, and I'm going to use my Pick a Banner punch and punch out the edges of it. This 1 inch slides right into the groove here, and then I'm going to flip it over and look at this side just to kind of make sure that it is as straight as I can get it, and punch that. And let's do the same thing to the other side. Let's get it to slide in. There we go. Flip it over. Line it up so it's straight and punch. Okay, that gave us a really nice little bannered tag piece. On the white piece here, I'm going to stamp my word, and I'm going to use the word friend on this one. I love this little scripty font. So this piece is kind of a scrap, but if you want to know size-wise, it is 3/4 of an inch by 2.5. And then after I stamp friend on it, I'm going to trim it down. So it will end up being 3/4 of an inch by 2.25. And I know that that is going to fit nicely on top of this piece. But I wanted to give myself a little wiggle room in my stamping, so I left it a teeny bit longer than I needed it. And now I will just snip off the ends to bring it down to about 2.25. So close to the tail on the D and close to the tail on the F. All right, and then this is going to go onto that pink piece. Whoa, that was a lot. That is unlike me to get a blob like that. I'm actually going to remove a little bit of that. I don't want it to squish out. Okay. So this is going to go centered onto my pink piece that I already prepared. Said centered, but it didn't look very centered, did it? Okay, let's go with that. Well, this piece is just, out of the whole card, this piece is ending up to be the problem child. There's a little, I don't know what it is. It might be ink or it could be dirt. There's a little mark here that I'm going to erase. See if I can erase it. I could ignore it, but I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to pull in my, and then I wiggled this piece too. Okay. I'm going to pull in my sand eraser. This is a artistic tool. I found this on Amazon. Where do we find everything? If it's not Stampin' Up, we usually find it on Amazon. It's called a sand eraser, and sometimes because of the grit, it will get in there and remove something that a regular eraser won't, and that worked. All right, that's fantastic. I will put a link to this little item down in the description so that if you need a sand eraser in your tools, you'll be able to find that quickly. Okay, now I'm happy with it. Wow, that took as long as all the rest of this. Okay, I'm going to put my flower on with a dimensional or two. And this is going to go kind of, not really centered. I like it a little bit lower than center. And then the tag is going to get placed right here. This is up to you where you put it, obviously. When I'm doing multiples, I usually kind of get in a rhythm and I do them all the same way. So what I have found myself doing is finding the top edge of this paper and putting it right into the V of my banner. That's kind of my method. So I've got the V right there and right there. All right, now there is our card, which I'm loving, the black and the white, the little bit of pop of color. Let's do a little bit of decorating. So, oh, let's put our inside piece in. Why don't we do that next? And then we'll decorate the front with our embellishments. All right, so as I mentioned, this is just a 1/4 inch strip by 5.5. And the reason I did that is I want it to go the whole length from the top to the bottom of my card on the inside. And I chose this pattern right here. I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch away from the fold. It doesn't matter. You could put it wherever you want. It could even go this way if you like that look. All right, I'm laying that in place. And if it's a teeny bit long, I can just snip that. Isn't that amazing how you can take multiple pieces of paper that you measured and cut the same, and yet somehow they end up just a hair off. All right, so that's the inside. Here's our front. Let's do our decorating. The first thing I'm going to do is add some rhinestones because after the rhinestones, you could certainly stop. It doesn't need any more, but we'll take it a few more steps. I've got all kinds of bits and pieces here. Okay, so I'm going to take a large rhinestone for the center of my flower, and I had made it gray just to kind of make it look dark. I wanted that dark look under my rhinestone and not white underneath my rhinestone. So there's the center of that. Then I'm going to use some of these small ones. I want to dress up the plain black areas on the front. So I'm going to do 2 up here, 1 down here. All right, I think it needs 1 over here. And I've done this different ways. I have put it right on, actually on the tail, almost like punctuation at the end, or down here. I think today I will use this spot like so. Now at that point you can be totally done and stop. It's beautiful. Sometimes less is more. I'm going to add a couple other things just to show you what you might be in the mood for. So after the rhinestones are in place, you might want to add Wink of Stella. Where's Stella? Here she is. Wink of Stella all over the petals. And Wink of Stella, if you've never used it before, is a glimmer pin. It's super nice in the way that now it doesn't have like loose glitter that's going to fall off and potentially sprinkle everywhere. It just dries and gives a soft shimmer. So that's why I call it a shimmer pin. It's not really glittery, but not sure if you can tell. It does give a beautiful little glimmer, especially when it dries. I have another one that I'll bring in at the end that's completely dry and it's really looking glimmery and shiny. So that's one more thing you could do. If you wanted to add a little bit of ribbon, this is polished pink ribbon, and I have a tiny piece. This is only like 3 inches long. I'm just going to tie a knot in it. I don't know if you're at home going, no, stop, it's fine how it is. I kind of felt that way on my first one, and then on my second one, I kept adding pieces. All right, so this could go here. This could go here. This could go, I mean, you can really kind of place it wherever you want to. So on this one, I think I'm going to put it right underneath friend. So I have a glue dot, not those are brand new. I have a mini glue dot here. And I'll just take the knot part of my knotted piece, stick it on the glue dot, and pull it off the backing. And attach it right here under the word friend. It's kind of neat. I like how the little gem is just kind of peeking out beneath it. I'm still going to trim this, but okay, so this is one option. Use my sharpest scissors for this task. All right, so there's our little knot. All right, that's cute. Oh, you can kind of see the shimmer even more now. And then I'm going to bring in this one, if you wanted to take it a step further and add some of the leaves, the stamped and colored and die cut leaves. So that's another look. I really am kind of liking just the pink on the black and white, but if you want to add that extra little bit of green, that looks nice. This flower does not have the Wink of Stella, and this one does. So I'm not sure on camera how well that shows up or not. And then, do I have a third one of these? I do. On this one's super similar to the one we just made. My knot just came out a little bit different, and it's more at an angle. All right, so there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. As I mentioned, this is project number 3 from Stamp Club, June of 2022. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to stamping with you again soon. Bye.